All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the joint Saxton Field Committee meeting, August 11 at 1:30. I'll just call on Councillor Kirby to bring us karakia.
Ngā mihi o te rā, tīnei te mihi kia koutou. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana, hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa, hui e, tai ki e.
Perfect, thank you. And just a wee bit of housekeeping. Welcome to, I don't know if we have anyone on Teams. We don't know, certainly from the committee, but if there's any public watching, a special welcome, and those in the gallery. The meeting is being live streamed and will be available on YouTube. Show you want to watch it following this meeting. Please use your microphones when talking. And the toilets and the fire exits are through the door you come through to get out this building. And I'm not sure where the meeting point is, but I assume it's in the car park outside. Thank you, Kit from Tasman. I have not had a tour of TDC, so I'm just going with the flow here. And there is hearing assistance, shall anyone need it. And a special welcome as well to Max from Top of the South Media. I think this is his second to last council meeting before he departs the world of local democracy reporting. So once again, Max, I know you got congratulated at Nelson last week. Thank you for the reporting you've done on Saxton Field and for the dialogue you've had for all the committee members since I've been on it. We have no apologies, and I can confirm the order of business is set out just for committee members. We just need a 5-10 minute briefing at the finish of the meeting, so please don't disappear. We just need your attention for 5 to 10 minutes. And we now come to public forum, and I welcome Douglas Jackson to the table from Skate Nelson Base. Just use your microphone there, Douglas. No, a bell will ring. You've got 10 minutes down to talk. A bell will ring at 9 minutes, but if you do go over, I'm quite flexible. We haven't got a large agenda if there are questions from committee members for you, but the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councillor Rollo. And thank you for all the councillors present and committee members to give us this opportunity to speak. Like Councillor Rollo has introduced me, I'm Douglas Jackson from Skate Nelson Base, and this is Shalane Jackson, who is our secretary. So today I'd like to just take you guys over the update of the big skate park that we're intending to build at Saxton Field. So this is our members at the moment. So we consist of 10 members at present, which we recently incorporated as a society. And this is because of the big project. We were part of the Lions before, but now for this project we have incorporated, and so to give us a bit more oversight and more people involved. So as you can see there's myself and then Shalane, who's got previous charity and governance and fundraising experience. We've got, and by the way, most of these guys are skaters. So a head chef, a youth member and advocate, except for Jenny and Dave Pullen. They've given up skateboarding a while ago. And Jenny is our treasurer. She's really good with finances and got years of experience. Dave Pullen, which has been the president of the Lions before. And then we've got a landscape architect in Lance Rosenberg. Shane Norton, who's a builder, who's built a lot of the skate facilities around Nelson and Richmond. Mitch Pownell, that was used to be part of council and parks and recreation, and then Holly Angus, who's also from England, but she represents the roller squad skating community. So we're trying to have quite a diverse group of people and insights. So about the project, the location, as you might know, is Avery Fields, which is just across from Countdown on Champions Road. And we have done a concept design, and the estimated cost would be about 5.5 million, excluding GST. So the regional facility is going to be of like a destination level, and it will be capable of hosting national events. So now we're not just talking about skateboarding, it's BMX, scooter, So there's various sporting codes within the various sports. So it's going to be able to host many different style of events, and also would be at an international standard. It will be the only thing of its kind on the top of the South Island. So the closest facilities will be either the North Island or Christchurch. So this will be the main park for that whole region. So there's quite a lot of people that it will service that level of standard. We have been doing inclusive and accessible design and aligned with council's community wellbeing objectives. And we have the strong council funding partnership. So council has already, TDC and Nelson has both allocated $300,000 each in the long-term plan. And so we're not here to ask you guys for more money. We're just here to give you an update on where we are, and the rest of the funds we are intending to raise ourselves. Concept design and cost estimates are now completed, so I'll be taking you guys over the concept design shortly. And then lastly, we developed, with the concept design, we did it collaboratively with experienced designers, user groups, and also the disabled community. Initially, when we started this project, we did do a community survey where we've tried to see what the community needs were. And so we had about 400 responses. And as you can see, there's a lot in the older generation that responded, but you would imagine a lot more of the users would be those of the 10 years and younger, but they just don't have cell phones to have conducted the survey at the time. These are the surveys. This is the survey that we always also use for getting into the long-term plan. So you guys would have seen these figures before. But yes, there was a strong indication that something of this standard is wanted and would be used. According to our project timeline thus far is, in the beginning, we did do our community needs survey, and then we got into the long-term plan, and we did project scoping and procurement to do the concept design phase, and then we did that. So that finished the project of just getting the design made and then getting a price tag to it. The following would be then fundraising, and then once we have a clear indication of the funds, we will do scoping of how much we're going to be building, and then essentially build it. So the company who's going to be building the park will be different from or won't necessarily be the same company who designed it. So there'll be another procurement process in that stage. So now I would like to take you guys through the actual design that we have, the 3D model. So you guys might have seen the 2D design. So today I want to take you over what it would look like in a 3D visual. So what you'll see there on the left, there's 3 zones essentially. On the left is your beginners. So if you look at the top picture, on the left is your beginners zone. In the middle is your advanced street section, is what they call it. And on the right is a large bowl, which is a transition style of skating or user purposes. So when I talked earlier about the different sporting codes, so riding in the big bowl, it would be an event on its own. So there'll be just a whole weekend of a competition where BMXers would just use that, or skateboarders, and that will be an event in itself. Or the middle section would be then the street section, which is a different style, which would just be an event on its own. And then you have the beginner section that's more recreational for learning, and it's also separate, so you can have competitions and also have the park usable at the same time. The strategy here is to have each zone costed individually. So the intent is to, on the website, when we do fundraising, each zone can be fundraised individually, because we've already seen that some people are more motivated to allocate money towards a specific zone as opposed to the whole park entirely, because they know that they're going to be using the big bowl, for instance, and therefore they're going to push hard to fundraise for that. So we're giving them the opportunity to fundraise the zones individually, kind of putting them against each other as a competition, almost like people will see how the thermometers will go up and see which areas are doing better than others, and then get some momentum and awareness. So just a bit more on detail about what the park looks like. So on the beginners section, there'll be an undercover section where you can use while it's raining. And that's for the beginner section. So that's something that's really not very common throughout New Zealand to have a covered section that you can use when it's raining. So that will be quite unique. And then all these obstacles might not mean much to you, but it's all to the level of Olympic standard. So this is what you need to grow Olympians. Skateboarding is now an Olympic sport, so you might have Olympians coming from this region. The bowl, the two top photos over there, the deep end section of that is going to be up to 12 feet deep. So that is some of the deepest and largest bowls that you'll have in New Zealand. And that's with the aim of how the standards are around the world. So people from even Australia would come to ride this bowl because of its size and significance. And then you'll have a smaller bowl on the side, which is more recreational use. But again, it's to service those who don't want to go so big, but then also those who just ride for fun. Thank you. If we can turn back to the presentation, please. So what's next? Well, the next thing that we have to do is fundraise. So we've got some strategies where we're going to go to the commercial sector, the public, and also grant avenues. Once we have a clear idea of what the scope is with our funds, we can decide, okay, are we going to do only one zone? Are we going to rescope or redesign? Or are we going to do all of it because we got all the money and people just threw money at the project? We did go bold on this, and we won't compromise quality for lack of getting the project over the line. We intend to get this project done as when the product that gets delivered, we want to have done at the standard that it needs to be to grow Olympians. We don't want to compromise on that. So once we have that, there'll be another full community engagement where we make sure everything what we intend to put out is what the community wants. And then once we have the money and we've got the builder, we build. Thank you for your time. Questions?
Thank you, Douglas. We'll come to Timo first.
Thank you very much. It is a very exciting prospect for our region to see something like that coming to fruition. Just a question from a longevity point of view and ongoing maintenance point of view. How long do you expect a facility like this to last before it needs to be resurfaced or a roof needs replacing, or whatever might come up?
Yeah, so the roof would be built to building code, but I can't really say for the roof as much because we're not familiar to skating under roofs, but that will be a builder. But as far as the skate park is concerned, it's made out of concrete and it's of the highest quality, and they will last up to 30 years before you would consider maintenance. There's most of this, everything will be made of concrete or steel, but there are pool coping that we want to put on in the big bowl, so those might break, but they come in little tiles. So if there is usually an understanding within the skate park that BMXers won't go and fall with their pegs on there, and it's designed in a way that it isn't in those places. So those are the only things that could get damaged, but I mean that's minuscule, and it's not an ongoing cost. Like you won't have to look at maintenance at all with a skate park like that once it's built.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, through the chair. Like Timo there, wow, this is a golden opportunity for our youth and our next generations, and probably some of us older grey-haired people.
Absolutely.
But very quickly, Magazaland, where do you rate that in your scheme of things? I'm trying to see, is it beginner, middle, or expert?
Beginner.
Oh.
Yeah, Magazaland is a different take. It's more like it's a pump track is what they call it. So it's just to gain speed. I think if you're more advanced, you can use Magazaland for airs as a BMXer, but from a skateboarder's point of view, all you're going to be doing is riding. It's a good stepping stone to learn to stay on your board. but it's not going to teach you to do technical tricks or learn to go and fly through the air or skate transition. Yeah.
Thank you. And once you've built this track, who would be running the events? Who do you see running the events, regional events? Would that how would that progress?
So in the past, we've done events where we partner with council, but with anything, you probably have national bodies that organize the nationals. So there is Skateboarding New Zealand that will probably have the nationals, because the national gets held in Gisborne at the moment. So it is a organization or an entity that does that, and we would probably bid to have the nationals come here, and then they will help us organize that. But as far as how those events are being organized, I'm not too clear, but we would be happy because we intend to exist beyond the project, so we could look to step into that space of delivering these events and working collaboratively with whoever the event organizers are currently.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby.
Kia ora. I was at Old Lumpy on the weekend with my sons, and it was awesome. There was such a range of people and ages there using it, even with the roadworks. So I was very excited for this project, as are the two people lobbying me at home.
Nice.
There was also a lovely photo of Campbell Rollo up on some signage that talked about skating taking off and how it was going to be an Olympic sport. So it was really cool sort of seeing where we've progressed to from here.
Nice.
One thing I am excited about with the covered section, at Old Lumpy, it was pretty much a pool, and my kids couldn't skate through it. Is there drainage factored into this design? Is that going to be a problem?
Definitely. That's one of the biggest challenges with building essentially a pool of that magnitude. How do you get the water out of it? So we've already done geotech surveying of the soil, and essentially the draining, it's all factored into the quote and understanding. So yes, it's definitely considered, and the land that was our very first step that we had to do before any building company was going to give us a design, a concept design. Yeah.
Cool. Just one quick question from me and then from Timo, and then we'll wrap it up. In terms of the scope and the work that you've done already, has that been led by Skate Nelson Bays or the council? And I guess into that question is, what sort of figure have you put towards the project in terms of design and that so far? Like, you're obviously out there raising money for the project now, but are you having to raise money for the concept and the design so far, or has that been very much committee driven?
So the project, and Paul could also speak to that. The initial project was taken on by council, Nelson Council, and so we were just the main stakeholder in that, just to get our input into the design. But that came out of that initial fees or the initial funding that was been given by the council already.
Nelson Council. Sorry, just Nelson Council.
Nelson Council.
Yes, through you. That's correct. That's through the last long-term plan funding was provided for the design and some of the capital, like the first phase, and through this new AMP development, that's evolved out of the work that Skate Nelson Bays have done through the design. So yes, the design work was funded by the two councils.
And Timo, very quickly, and then we do.
Very, very quickly. Do you see any benefit in co-locating, looking even further into the future, co-locating the skate park with, say, a cafe or spectators nearby that could entertain themselves, maybe even a playground? Is there a benefit from your point of view?
The facilities of this magnitude, I would definitely say like a cafe or something like that, but I believe it being right across from Countdown already lends it to the commercial aspect of the region. So I haven't really thought of it a cafe per se, because I know there's a lot of regulations around that, and just getting a skate park built is enough. But it would be nice to have, like, for instance, a place where the kids can maybe buy something or get spare parts, a skate shop, something similar, just to fix their gear or something. I've seen some similar model in Napier where they have a people monitoring the area and make sure that, you know, everybody's safe and they've got, but that's fenced off, whereas this will be entirely open. So, but that, you know, takes resources and so on. So things to think about once we have the facilities, I guess. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, team. All the very best with the fundraising campaign. I'm sure as a committee we're here to help in any way we can. Obviously, we are under financial pressures like every other committee around the council, and so if there's anything we can do to help, we're certainly keen. But if it's a request for more money, maybe come in a few years' time.
Sure thing. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
No worries. All right, moving on. There was just the one presentation in public forum today. There are no items. Well, are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Just noting if there's any questions in the activity report regarding the hockey turf, Mike will take over as chair, but it's just noting that I was involved in the early stages with that project. There are no late items, and so quite happy as chair to confirm the minutes from the previous meeting back in May 19. I just need a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Mailing. Were there any questions on that? No? All right. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. And now we will move to the Saxton Field activity report. Paul, I'm quite happy for you to stay where you are, and I'm sure you're going to tag team with your counterparts on the other side of the table. But yeah, happy to take the report as read, and if you want to guide us through any key points, I'm quite happy to go through that.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for letting me stay in the sun. It's probably the best spot in the room. I've just got a correction before I get into it on page 5, point 30, just under the upcoming events bullet points. The Nelson Half Marathon should say 1st of November, not 1st of December. So this is just an update report. Only decision is that it's received. I'll just quickly sort of run through it and just feel free to stop me at any point and questions at the end, whatever works. First section is just updates for the committee. So there's some updates there on the Radio New Zealand land acquisition, the AMP workshop, and the stadium MOU, which you'll all be aware of. Relatively a bit more information on the solar panels there, which are being installed, and we're already seeing some really good discounts or reductions in the power bills. The May invoice was showing 42% less electricity for Saxton Stadium, which is pretty fantastic. So we haven't we'll wait till we have a bit more on that. Probably need a few more months to really do better comparisons to look at how that's going to work long term, but we might see some reductions in the long-term plan electricity budgets from that. We will. Just the extent will work out. If there's no questions there, I'll just move on to the capital projects updates.
Yeah, just one from me, Paul. I was down at Saxton Field over the weekend and got talking to some folk regarding the solar panels, and it's not, I guess I don't expect you to have an answer now, but are we able to consider within that the use of EV chargers around the Saxton Field project complex? May want to come through the activity management plan and LTP, but given we're now promoting some solar out at Saxton Field, if we could potentially consider charging stations or potentially even co-funding it with a private agency out there.
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. I'll have a chat to our climate team at Nelson City Council anyway, and TDC as well, and see. Yeah, we probably don't have anything in the budget to install it at the moment for this coming AMP, but we could certainly look into investigating it.
Timo?
That's kind of expanding on your question, Chair. Really excited to see those savings from solar. I think that's fantastic to see. Is there a plan to expand that even further over the next few years?
No, through the chair, not at present. So currently it's the Saxton Stadium the football pavilion and the netball pavilion. So at present, there's no plans to expand it further, but that could be something we look into. Cool. Just moving on to capital projects update. Basketball hoops. So that's programmed in for this year. The planning work has been completed, and we're pretty much at the stage of lodging a building consent. We have met with basketball, had a really good meeting, and they are open to putting in a funding application to support it. Yeah, they do already contribute quite a bit to basketball in Nelson. Just for example, they own Tom Robbins Stadium, which has an awful lot of use. So it's a question, but they're certainly open to putting in an application.
Just one on that for me, Paul. I noted that in item 11 we said that the existing hoops would be investigated for sale or reuse, but noted above that they were a part of the original contribution from basketball, and just wondered if in that conversation we can consider them being the first kind of right of returning back to them. I think we probably owe it to them, given that they provided them at the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely. My understanding is that they fundraised for half of it. They had a grant for half of it, but had to raise the money through a loan for the other half. So absolutely, that would be the first port of call. Yep.
Cool.
Conversation with them. Hockey turf, that's planned to get underway later this year. Investigations will happen close to the time. You can't really look at the shock pad until you're actually doing the project, look at it properly. So we'll have a good idea then of what contingencies will be used. Skate park, heard from Douglas, fundraising to kick off shortly. And the outfield renewal, I think you've probably heard enough about that. The timing will be as soon as the second Black Caps match against Sri Lanka has been completed, and really no later, because we're pushing into the grow time there. Bell Island wastewater, some budget in this year. We've already done some scoping. Yep.
Well, it's just about Bells Island. Seeing as I chair the NRSPU, we had a joint committee meeting or joint workshop with Nelson City councillors, and it's not in the program for the next 3 years because of capital constraints. And I can the indicated cost was roughly I think 6.8 million. Alex, I think that's what Brad. Yes. So there is a cost, and it doesn't matter which way you put it. It's the same ratepayers paying, because we jointly own NRSBU 50-50. So it won't be done in the next 3 years, but we know what it's going to cost. So, and it does make a lot of sense, particularly for the NRSBU going forward for their consent in about 15 years' time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Just
Just to comment on that, we're only at a very early stage, but we've got it in our AMP for about year 5 or something. But we're just scoping out investigations and at the moment.
Timo?
Yeah, sorry, I'm confused now. I remember us talking around the table of a really modest plugging into a system that's already there, costing possibly 100 or 200,000 to get that irrigation from Bell Island. Now we're talking about 6.5 or whatever million, which is significantly more. How is that reflected in the business case for this?
I might just refer to the chair of the NRBU.
Well, this committee didn't have the information from the NRSBU. The NRSBU manager has had a look at it. They want to do it because it will help with the consent, which is a very important issue going forward, because we have to reuse water. But it's still a $6.8 million cost, so it won't happen in the next 3 years. They're already reusing water. We already provide irrigation water to Green Acres Golf Club, and we have for 2 seasons, and we will be irrigating 58 hectares at Best Island, which we bought some 8 years ago. So it's going to happen, but the cost of doing this is $6 million to get the water there, because you've got to re-sleeve some pipes. And this committee didn't know those costs.
Okay, but this committee is looking at a business case to make this work. Or
Well, I think
who's doing that?
I think what we can probably do, and I might refer to Kat and Alec, we can probably get just a note circulated from what the business unit's been discussing, Obviously, they've met since our last meeting and before this one, so we can probably just get a note on what that looks like and ask questions from there.
Okay, just moving on. Next item is the play space. Is there any update from Grant?
I'd just like to call on Joe Bywater if you wouldn't mind coming up and speaking to this one.
And just noting, we're going to have a briefing from Joe around the play space afterwards. So if there's any questions on it, just ask them regarding what's in the agenda here, and then we'll have a briefing afterwards.
Thanks. Through the chair, since the last committee meeting, we've since gone through a bit of a sponsorship drive and approached the market to for a tender. We're currently under tender evaluation. We've issued a preferred contractor, but we're currently negotiating some pricing elements. So, we're still on track, hopefully, for a December opening, but yeah, there's a few hoops to jump through before then. But in terms of sponsorship, we've had a few local businesses contribute to the project, and we are in the process of going through applications with Rata and lotteries, and those are promising. I think we met all of their initiatives, so yeah, that's all for me.
Thank you, Joe. Exciting. Back to Paul.
So on to health and safety. I'll just take that as read if there's any questions on that. There's a few incidents relating to Matariki and the bike hub and the basketball hoops. No questions. Just the highlights on the operational update section. Looking at options to protect the football field, looking at prices for bollards across the wider Nelson City Council area to try and reduce costs. Softball and baseball, that's an ongoing conversation. We've had a couple of meetings now with both softball and baseball, and it is looking promising. So the next step is a meeting with both codes, which is happening in the next week or two, and we're trying to find a way forward there. Bit of info there on the maintenance of the athletics track, visibility of public toilets, and the unnamed roads, a process for the unnamed roads moving forward. That's something that came out of the transport safety report. Any questions on the operational matters?
One from Kit.
There's not really a question, just it's pleasing to see that you finally got those two ball sports, baseball and softball talking, because there's a lot of assets in that area and it needs to be utilised better. So if they can work out a schedule and they can use it, particularly for juniors, because the dimensions are different, but in the juniors, it doesn't matter so much.
That's correct, and the majority of the baseball players are juniors, so they would quite happily use a diamond on a Saturday morning.
Just regarding and probably a question for Manfred, regarding the bollards. I recall at the last committee meeting we discussed that it was we had a wee bit of extra budget there to do some bollards around Saxton Field. With it now being tied into other fields, does that mean it's going beyond the budget of that we had, or is it simply that we're just going to do it at the same time to be cost effective?
That's a great question. Thank you. It's simply to be cost effective. It would still come from the same GL budget code from Saxton. It would just be merged as a project to find some extra efficiencies.
Perfect, thank you. I'm a big advocate for bollards. Cars on fields is a soft spot in my life. All right, thank you. Is there any other questions for Paul on anything? Just one, Paul, from me regarding the skate park. In terms of where that now sits with there's obviously a huge fundraising campaign that's going to be underway from the skate. Is that a project that the council officers still have our hands kind of over, or is it simply now we're leaving it to the skating community to raise the money and then we'll get building underway?
It is primarily up to Skate Nelson Bays to do that fundraising. The Nelson City Council has helped out with some. I think they've made a little promo video at some point, so that could be used. But really, the fundraising is up to them. But council will still have. It will be a Tasman District Council project moving forward because it's on Tasman land. Certainly, the council officers will be involved in making sure that it's the designs and the project runs to council standards and so forth.
And I assume just a sup on that is in terms of and I may come to the TDC guys if it's their project, in terms of when we'll get holes dug in concrete poured, how far down the track's that going to be? I.e., are they going to have to raise the 5 million before we start that project, or are we going to be able to stage it in a way that we can start kind of as work happens?
Well, the way that I can answer the way that it's in the activity management plan has been worked through with Skate Nelson Bays and what they think is a realistic time frame, and it can be phased as well. So it's designed in a way that it can be done in phase one if they get $1 million, $1.5 million, and that's going to be a park area on its own that's it'll function, and then the next one can be connected on, and that will function as 2 phases, and then the third one. So if they get it all at once, they'd be cracking into it 2028, 29. Perhaps, or 27, 28, 28, 29, but otherwise it could be phased. Yep.
Alec?
Through the chair, if I may, the way we've dealt with other organisations that have to fundraise where there's funding from both TDC and or NCC is that it's done through formal agreement, exchange of letters, memoranda to ensure that we actually know exactly what the deliverables are and when they expect the funding. It's no different to Surf Lifesaving. It's no different to any other project we're doing. So I think it needs to be a little bit more formal than that they're going to raise their money, because it's linked to milestones, delivery, and when we release our money. So I think there needs to be a little bit more work done. That's something that can happen behind the scenes, but just I think as a minimum expectation, you should be requiring that of us so that we can show you when we are going to be releasing our monies based on certain milestones, and we can draw that up for you. We've got a lot of templates to work from.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool, and I think knowing your work, Alec, just one of those business cases you do for the delivery committee would be helpful regarding that work. We did have a question from Mike on the skate park.
Sorry, wasn't actually on the skate park. It was about the cameras at the bike.
Bike up?
Yep. Are the cameras going in directly as a result of the broken window? Are we paying for the cameras, or is it part of a request by insurance? And also, are they going to be there forever? And what are they monitoring? And is it in a network sort of cameras?
Thanks, that's a great question. The cameras have come up because there's a bit of a history of antisocial behavior in that area. So I believe the cameras were funded by NCC, but I can get back to you with some more details on that.
I suppose I asked a lot of questions because I was just heard from Paul that we've got cameras in here now, and my mind started going like that. So if we just have a little bit of a summary for me anyway of what is it? Are they going to be there forever? Are they linked with the police and that sort of thing?
My understanding is that they were funded by NCC. They are owned by the operator of the bike hub, but I can get some more information together. Yeah. On that.
And they are permanent. And,
yes.
And who monitors them? The bike hub monitors them.
The bike hub monitors them. Yeah.
No need to come back. I'm happy now.
I believe they were supported. There's a security company in Nelson that supported them through that. Nigel?
Thank you, through the chair. I just want to have a little talk about events that aren't sports events, really. And it's great to see that the Matariki festival was a great success. But with them wanting to push out sort of 4 or 5 days with pack in, pack out, we've got the home and garden show that we've added. When we looked at what Saxton was for, it was primarily for sporting codes and to concentrate on sport, whereas we have other venues for these that could be used. So my question is, are we actually following our strategic guidelines, and are we comfortable that Saxton isn't moving from a sporting facility to a general use facility? I don't know who's to answer that one.
I can't add a lot to it, but I can say that it is very early in those conversations as to having it again next year and those requirements. So I don't think any decisions have been made. Conversations with codes are going to be happening, but there is a need to get in earlier and have more time afterwards if they are going to go there. So I could definitely come back to you on that, and it's a good point. And yeah, I think it's 4 or 5 days would be a long time to have that out of action. So yep.
Yeah, and just kind of echoing the comments from Nigel, I'm aware that the users, in particular for the Matariki, there is a wee bit of, there's a lot of crossover in terms of winter sport being played, so I'm aware that's one we just need to keep our eyes over. Alec?
Through the chair, perhaps this is a discussion that we pursue as part of the activity management plan discussion in terms of the vision, in terms of what you think we should or shouldn't be doing, because I think it's safe to say, Councillor, that it was a successful event, and I think the chances are that they are looking at Saxton's for a variety of reasons, space, a whole lot of other things. So I think we just need to be able to have your intentions relayed to us very clearly so we can plan accordingly.
Thank you, Alec. I guess that's all the questions on the activity report, unless I've missed someone's hand. And Paul, we might as well just, it says morning tea on my run sheet, but there is no morning tea. We're in almost afternoon tea time. But we'll just move straight to the draft activity management plan if you'd like.
Sure, thank you. So this is just the approval of a draft, which is a decision for the council. So
Hang on, sorry, Paul. I've just got to my fault as the chair. We're meant to move that activity report. So if someone's willing to move that, thank you, Kit. And Nigel's going to second. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Sorry, Paul.
No trouble. So the activity management plan, this is a draft activity management plan which is primarily prepared to inform the LTPs of the two councils. The process is that this draft comes to this committee, then will be recommended to the two councils for approval, and then it'll be made available to the public while the long-term plans are consulted on. And then finally, when the LTPs are approved, the draft AMP is amended with any changes through the consultation process, and then reapproved. The main aspects in the activity management plan just highlights the key activities, key issues and challenges for the activity, levels of service, and budgets. That's the key aspects. So I'll just run through. I'll talk briefly to the outcomes from the joint council workshop, and then just run through the AMP at a very high level, and then just open it up for questions. So just as a result of the workshops, the joint council workshop, we've got no budget included for the Champion Green Pavilion. The permanent media towers have been, they have their funding deferred. They're still in the system, but they're just beyond the 10 years. And the Bell Island treated wastewater for irrigation, which was seen as a priority at that workshop, has been included in years 4 to 7 to further investigate and progress the project, and that's on top of a bit of funding that's in this year, which we're just getting into. There was also questions around co-location of the skate park and play space. We didn't really see a need for this, and I actually think it could have unintended consequences if you could end up with car parking, for example, being taken up by skateboarders and displacing the inclusive playground users. and the proximity to the toilet is fine for a skate park. It's 150 odd metres along a concrete path, so we didn't think that was necessary. It didn't, and it's more of a development plan issue than an AMP thing anyway, but I just thought I'd raise that as it came up in the workshop. Funding was included for the joint entity investigation, and there was also, I've summarised some questions in the report around Harakeke Green that came up in the workshop. So just turning to the draft AMP itself, I'll just run through the key sections in order, just at a high level. So the activity summary really just gives an overview, as the heading suggests, covers off key issues, priorities, prioritises a range of other background info. The levels of service section, which is section 2, hasn't changed from the last activity management plan. It covers resident satisfaction, building standards for some of the buildings in Saxton Field, international cricket and stadium usage. And just to comment on that, wherever you see the Nelson City Council's community outcomes highlighted, that's because when this went onto the agenda, it hadn't been approved, but it has since been approved at the 6th of August meeting, so you can ignore the yellow highlights.
Timo?
The description of assets.
Sorry, Paul, we've just got a question from Timo.
We can let Paul finish and I'll
continue, Paul, then we'll come to Timo.
Okay. Section 3 just runs through a description of the assets. That's really just the sports facility provision. And section 4 shows alignment with the strategic direction of the councils. Mainly it's just the strategic outcomes and Te Tauihu strategic priorities. And then it's on to the financial section. So hopefully there's no surprises in here. It's pretty much what was discussed at the workshop. The feedback from the workshop's been incorporated. I would say it's probably probably the leanest capital works program that the Saxton Field has seen. It's really focusing on renewals, and there's not a lot of new capital development. A lot of stuff has been deferred. CapEx is set out in line items, and the OpEx is rolled up into the cost centres, so I can expand on that if needed. And just a couple of notes on those financials. It doesn't include the 50% financial contributions between the councils, so it just shows the costs. So that doesn't have income lines or OpEx for that. And a small thing, the Nelson City Council budgets will be presented differently in the final version, where we're rolling up our cost centres into one, so you won't have a different one for the stadium, the Oval Pavilion, and the rest of Saxton Field. And I've got a little correction too, on page 29. It was pointed out to me that the last paragraph of section 5.3 talks about insurance being fully insured. Just need to point out that what is it? So full insurance for Nelson City Council only applies for assets valued over 500k. So I will amend that text. It's just a small correction. It doesn't affect the rest of the AMP or anything, but I'll just point it out now that it's not quite right. And I'll also talk to TDC to make sure I'm aligned with their insurance. So the request is that the committee receives the report and then recommends it to the two councils for being approved. And happy to take questions.
Thank you, Timo.
Thank you. Look, there's no doubt that Saxton Field is a really exciting facility for our communities, both in Nelson and in Tasman. And adding to that a skate park, a new playground, new toilets, and renewing or even improving our fields is something that I expect our communities will be very excited about. What they're not so excited about, in particular in Tasman, is the increasing rates. Now, I've circulated a question immediately after our last workshop relating to the strategic priority of affordability. And I've asked, how is that reflected in practice? Do we have a policy that somewhat links the level of service or the expansion of our level of service to the expansion of our ratepayer base? Because it's quite simple. If we expand our level of service on Saxton Field at a faster rate than our ratepayer base, then the rates will go up. There's no other way unless you debt fund it. So I have today, I believe, not got a response to that question, and I wonder whether that forms in some way part of the plan, the activity management plan. But I think it's a fundamental question that we need to kind of find an answer to in order to be able to progress this.
Just trying to see, Timo, was the question to me or to an officer? I'm just.
I think that was to an officer. And I think I copied the committee.
Is this following the workshop? Just bear with us a moment. Yeah, we'll go. We've got Nigel just regarding Timo, your email. It's gone to all councillors, including the mayors, and not necessarily a staff member. And I guess we've now got to find out who should have responded, whether that was me or a staff member. But we will get this attention right now, and then we'll go Nigel and then Kit.
Okay, thank you through the chair. I just want to look and talk, Paul, about that potential of the Section 17A review or the CCO governance review. We've got it spread across year 1 and 2 for investigation. I don't think it will take that long, and it definitely shouldn't take that long. So I'm just requesting that that could be all pulled into year 1 as a priority, and then I would like to see in year 2 a budget line for actually implementing it, should it be decided that is the right way to go. And I think we need to be budgeting, preparing for that. If it's decided the status quo, well, that's fine, we can amend the budgets now, but I don't think we should be doing a review and then not have a budget to actually implement that review, depending on its finding. Thank you. And sorry, just on that as well, I guess it's looking at the quantums as well. So I know when we did the marina, just to give some guidance, the Section 17A review was around 40,000 in total, using third parties, and the actual transition with legal fees and accounting fees was around 150,000. It may be pretty similar in terms of a quantum for budgeting now. Thank you.
Thanks. Through the chair, look, I'm in the committee's hands as to how you want those budgets to sit. Currently, we've got 25k in year 1, 20k in year 2, and 20k in year 3. So you could move them around, add to it, or yeah, whatever you prefer. Perhaps based on your advice, it could be 40k year 1, and then we put the remainder to year 2. And I'm not sure that would be sufficient for the implementation, given what you said. But
yeah, I mean, I'm quite supportive of and Nigel's obviously been for it when wearing a different hat, and so if we can tie it in together rather than making it a long-term process, I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. If that helps. Kit?
Yeah, just comment about that. This is a park. I don't see it as a trading organisation, so I don't see it as a CCO. I think that would be more expensive, but I'll wait till the review. In terms of the facilities, and Timo's question, a number of the facilities in Saxton have been provided by the actual sports organisations themselves. They've contributed a huge amount of money over the years. The big parks are different, like the football fields and the cricket fields and that are quite different. But the other facilities have actually been largely funded by a huge amount by the different sporting, whether it be softball, whether it be hockey, and if I look at the stadium as well. So you need to remember that when you're talking about levels of service. And another good example is the skateboard park. You know, we, as a ratepayer, we wouldn't be looking at putting in $5 million into a skateboard park, an Olympic skateboard park. So that's being driven by the community raising the money. So I think you need to be careful when you talk about levels of service and the cost to the ratepayers, because in actual fact, when they come in for renewals, we go back to those sporting associations and saying, well, hang on, you've got a renewal coming up, you've got to raise some money. And Athletics is the same. They've done the same. So you just need to be careful in relation to that question. And you need to know the history of how some of this arose over a period of time. Because this park's been going over 20 years now. And to me, I see it as a legacy for my grandchildren going forward. And if you look at, to me, it's modelled on what's actually happened in Christchurch and Hagley Park in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, and I think to be fair to the officers who do a wonderful job, we don't. I don't think we've ever, as a committee, and I've only been on it 4 years, a majority here apart from yourself, Kit, this is their first year. I don't think we've given officers any direction to go and find, ways that we could have ways of making Saxton Field cheaper. It is 20 years old, and so it is a wee bit unfair to criticise saying it does. And I hear this all the time. We spend too much money out there. Well, at some point we need to have a discussion around, are there ways we can offset those costs? And I'm sure we can find those through the long-term plan. Timo?
Look, I think it's really encouraging to hear that about not only the capital expense up front, but also the ongoing maintenance and renewals, that there are other parties coming to the party, not just the ratepayers. I mean, I do note, though, that, the outfield renewal comes at a fairly significant cost to the ratepayers, so I would suggest there's no harm in having a policy that guides us in how we deal with these sort of costs and what our expectations are. I think that helps everybody to have some clarity around that.
Yeah, although I think any sporting group out at Saxton Field, not just sport, any user is aware that if we're going to do a capital projects that comes through policies that we have at NCC, that they're aware that they're going to fund a certain amount of it. So I don't think the discussions that aren't had. I mean, if you look at the conversations that are happening with cricket, motions have been moved and different things around the council table, but if you go and talk to them, I generally think they're excited about investing in Saxton Field. And so, I mean, we're just the guys that show up and take a photo and celebrate all the good things that happen. The staff do an excellent job, and there's some pretty grueling conversations that they have with the users, and we're about to go and tell them, hey, there's not going to be much capital expenditure in the next 10 years, and we'll be the ones at the end of the day. We might be voted in, we might be voted out, but the staff go and do the incredible job out there, so we've got to give them something to go and talk to them about. Are there any other questions? If not, I'll keep talking. All right, so Timo?
I do have another question on the co-location of the skate park with a playground. I know you alluded to that. Is there a report that we could have a look at where that question has been investigated, so we can actually understand what the assumptions are and on which basis that was was ruled out?
So happy for Paul to answer it, but I'm aware that the previous Saxton committee, which I sat on, did some site analysis of a number of sites, and we then preferred moving it to Avery, where it was going to be at the northern end on Circus Green, but in terms of which was a decision last year, I'm not sure if there's any discussions around moving it to the play space.
Yeah, just to follow on from that, no, there's no report. It was just a question that came up at the workshop, and it's been responded to with Parks advice around open space usage, and it's really based on the development plan as well. It would be a question that would need to be addressed to change the development plan, which could happen. But my advice would be that those two facilities, like many facilities at Saxton Field, they don't need to be co-located. It could create parking issues. It could be unintended consequences, but we could certainly come back with that. But TDC might have a view as well on the skate park, on the playground location.
I just note that the question was raised at the last meeting, and I would have appreciated looking at what pros and cons fall out of the question, and on which basis do we land on the opinion that we're on at the moment. I mean, I personally see that consolidating facilities generally has some benefits as well, not just parking issues.
Grant?
Well, I'll just add that so staff had a conversation about the location following that workshop. Although there was no report, we did discuss the pros and cons informally around keeping it, well, locating it next to the inclusive playground site. I thought there might be some benefits, but I could also see that there are other sort of disadvantages as well that could potentially arise. But I think, as Kit has just mentioned to me, being close to a road and that sort of passive surveillance is a benefit, and that was the reason why I think we looked at Circus Green originally. But yeah, that's as far as we got.
And I guess just on that then, I'm aware, obviously we've just had a wonderful presentation from Skate. They obviously haven't flagged any concerns about the location, where it's going, and I mean, they've got a design and setting out to raise $5 million. So, I mean, did they look at any other locations apart from the Circus Green?
Sorry, are you saying were there any other locations
that the skating organisation, Skate Nelson Bay's, considered?
Oh, they looked at locations across Nelson and Tasman, and there was several into Saxton Field, probably about 7 or 8. And yeah, as you know, we first looked at Circus Green, but this came up probably a bit later in the piece, because originally we thought it was more of an issue with sports users, but when we worked out that was not going to be an issue, it's probably the perfect location within Saxton Field. Just the proximity from a set-ted point of view to the shops and the road, and yep.
All right. Well, thank you for that. There are no further questions that I can see. And so, Timo?
No, Paul.
I'm really sorry, it's me again. We did touch on the solar generation, and that could be something we could integrate into this activity management plan to see some sort of expansion there. And you mentioned EV chargers. Is that something we would like staff to go and have a look at?
Certainly. Alec, you're looking at me. You look like you've got an answer. I like
no, I haven't got an answer. I think it's certainly worthwhile signalling your intention in this activity management plan, this asset management plan, of whether you support that, so that they can give intent to exploring it. As to the funding, what comes out is neither here nor there. That needs to be a process. But if you're signalling that you want something to take place, this is the forum to do it.
Yeah, so I guess if it's a starter for 10, what I've taken from the meeting, Paul, one, David, I'm looking at you, is that the use of EV charging at Saxton Field within the activity management plan, the potential ways of, are there ways we can look at offsetting costs, i.e. food carts, food vendors type thing out at Saxton Field, the reminder within our strategic plan of events that happen at Saxton Field, are they benefiting what Saxton Field is set out for, and are there any more that I've missed? Yep, we've got that. Timo?
Is there a sorry, just asking a question. Is there a majority in the committee to actually look at a CCO for Saxton Field?
I think that needs. I think all we're offering here is the staff to go away and investigate some potential options, and then that will come back to the committee as a report on what the outcomes and findings are. I think at the moment it's just, is it something that can be pursued?
So there's a majority for looking at spending money on that report?
That majority was found at the joint workshop that was held between both councils a number of months ago. I wouldn't necessarily, there was a majority. I was there. It wasn't the view wasn't expressed by everyone, but there was enough support there to at least direct the staff to go and have a look at it. Nigel?
Yeah, through the chair. Just to be clear as well, if we can look at it as a Section 17A review, which is what we need to do under the Local Government Act, because saying it's a CCO is predetermining the outcome. There are multiple of different models that would be looked into. That is really just a stand back. Let's have a look at what options we have for governance moving forward. So, yeah, just to be clear on that. Thank you.
And I think we're also helping the staff out because sometimes the 50-50 thing doesn't work, and I'm not an advocate for amalgamation, so I'll leave it at that. Paul? Paul, you're okay?
Yeah, I'm just, based on what Councillor Skeggs has said, I've probably just given the governance advisors bad advice.
Yeah, okay.
You could just take out the Saxton Field CCO trust and just call it a Section 17A investigation. The GL number's the key thing.
Yeah, that takes away any predetermination.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Timo?
And just to throw a really curved ball into the mix, should the Richmond Aquatic Centre kind of find its way into the activity management plan?
Yeah, no.
Through the chair, I'm quite happy to propose that as long as Trafalgar Park and Trafalgar Stadium are as well.
Look, I'll let Max while we've got Max for another week, I'll let him ring me and go, what's this about the aquatic centre coming out to Saxton Field?
It's your mayor who's a regular user.
Hey, look, all I'm saying to my committee members here is it shows a good lack of idea when the media asked me the question on how that idea's come about rather than the committee bringing it up in a meeting. So I have no appetite to bring it up, if that helps finish your story, Max. But I did appreciate Max ringing me going, this is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, so staff, you're happy with what we've got there? Dave?
Sorry, through the chair, just to clarify for point 1, we're going to you've asked us to do that in terms of the investigations of the Section 17A review, in terms of the EV charges and the possible solar panels extending. So you just want us to, are we putting money aside to investigate that? Is that what you're expecting? Can I just help?
Yep, we're just going to, let's just take a minute.
We had a similar conversation with our council last week around EV on our reserves or our land holdings. So we're looking at doing an expression of interest to the market. So rather than us putting any money aside, we're going to get the market driving it, if that helps. So I think probably that'd be the better way of doing it, just including it in that wider expression of interest and then see what lands. Because the commercial sector will tell us whether or not it's viable or not.
Okay, so that manages the EV charger response. For the solar panels, is it putting some additional money to investigate or just giving greater consideration for the next activity management plan to look at more solar panels? So for the next update, is it just being a bit more?
Yeah, I think greater discussion. I'm aware the ones that have just gone on Saxton Stadium come post the last activity management plan through that grant that the council's received. So if we need to come back to it, I think the only other one that I would add there, if we need to add it, would be some conversation around the use of concessions within the park, i.e. food carts, food vendors. Is that something that we can be looked at? Obviously, with play spaces and skate parks, they may come, but just if that's something that we can potentially look at. Wouldn't say needs money, but is it? Do we have the facilities there to do it, i.e. power in different places, and what can the market provide us there?
Yeah.
Alex?
So through the chair, I think we're getting into a lot of detail here. I think what you need to do through the chair is just signal your intention whether you want something in the activity management plan to look at whether you want to put on solar power or solar chargers. It just forms the backbone of the activity management plan as an overall desire philosophy. I think we're getting into if that's what you want to do, then just signal that, and then we will include that in the AMP, and then figure out what that means. We're not talking about implementation, but if you're signaling that as part of this committee, you want to look at solar on all the buildings, and well, then just signal that, and that's something that can be included for officers to look at. That's as simple as that.
Yep, that's helpful. Timo?
Just wondering whether that policy on affordability should somehow be reflected in that as well, or is it a separate discussion?
Sorry, through the chair, I missed that, sorry. Oh, I apologise.
Sorry, that was my first question that I asked around how we manage affordability for the whole of the Saxton Field operation. Whether we, it's coming back. Is that going to be something that should sit within the activity management plan, or is that something we look at separately from it?
Yeah, we'll look at that separately, and John's going to follow up on that for us on our behalf. Yeah. All right. I'm going to move this. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mike.
Are they right? The changes? So it doesn't quite make sense to me.
Do you want to just give us 2 minutes?
Yeah, let's take 2 minutes. And we've got a mover and myself and Mike to start, and then we'll go straight to the vote. table if you're gonna help move it, sorry. All right, so we've got the resolution there before us on the screen. We've had questions time with the officers, so I'm happy to move it. Mike, as deputy, is going to second it. Does anyone want to debate it, or can I just take the vote? Perfect. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. And let me just grab my run sheet. And we will close the meeting with karakia. Thank you, Councillor Kirby. Just for those in the room, the moment we go into the briefing, the briefing will happen in confidential, and that is due to commercial sensitivity around the discussion that needs to happen. So once the meeting's closed, we will be in committee for a briefing with Joe and John. Thank you, Councillor Kirby.
Kia tau tō rangimārie, kei runga i ngā reo o te ao.
Cool. Meeting closed. And we'll just take 2-3 minutes and then we'll have the briefing.